Hello, hello, everybody. I'm going to take my mask off. Welcome to RBCM at Outside, watching orcas from land. My name is Liz Crocker, and I'm a learning program developer at the Royal BC Museum. And if you've never joined us before, this is a webinar format program, so we can't see and hear you, but you can interact with us through the chat. So welcome if you're in Zoom, or you might be watching this on Facebook, and we will be recording the session and posting it to our YouTube channel afterwards. So thank you for joining us. And we are here today in Sydney, BC, which is at the end of the Saanich Peninsula on southern Vancouver Island in the Salish territories on Vancouver Island. And I'm going to get Jenny to share. I've got a couple links there. The Sanchatan speaking people in this area have contributed to the First Peoples Cultural Council website about languages, about Indigenous languages. And it's an amazing website, but one of the things we can do if you're not an Indigenous person, one of the things we can do towards reconciliation is really learning about the Indigenous territories that we are living on as guests, and the languages of the people that have been here for thousands of years. And this First Peoples Cultural Council website is amazing if you've never been to it. And there's a whole Sanchatan section, and I was on it today, and there's some games and puzzles for kids, but there's things for everybody on there, and so you can actually learn some Sanchatan words. So I encourage you to do that. This is the last RBCM at Outside program for a little while. We're going to take a pause this summer after doing all these digital programs for the pandemic and just sort of figure out what we're going to be able to offer for the fall. We can't have people yet on site at the Royal BC Museum, but we do have some summer offerings for you. So check out the website. Some of those are up now and will be up. There will be some programming, from digital programming, and I'm going to do an RBCM at Outside in July. I'm excited about this one, July 15th, and it's going to be very similar to the one if you joined us on Family Day. I'm going to be joined by the folks at Clay-Cleetonay First Nation up near around Prince George. If you're not familiar where that is, we're going to be talking about ancient forest, Chunto Wadajut Provincial Park. It's one of BC Park's newest parks. And what's really amazing and innovative and great about this park, besides it being an inland rainforest, it's just exquisite, is that it's co-managed by the First Nation and BC Parks. So I encourage you to come to that program. That is July 15th at 12 p.m. And okay, that's enough of me talking, because I want to introduce my guest. I'm going to turn the camera around in a minute and I'll put my mask back on. So Tina Kelly, and I'll let her, she can add, but she is Director of Learning and Communications at the Shaw Centre for the Salish Sea down here in Sydney. And she also has a wealth of experience and knowledge about marine mammals, particularly whales, and she can tell you about that as well. And we are going to be seeing one. We're going to see if we can actually see some real whales today. That would be wonderful. But if not, we're going to see, just sort of talk about what to look for, what to watch for, and learn about some of Tina's experiences with whales. So I'm going to flip my camera around. That's not what I did. Bear with me. Okay. Here we go. And I'm going to pop my mask back on, get a little closer to Tina. So welcome, Tina Kelly, standing in front of the Shaw Centre for the Salish Sea. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
I don't know if you heard me way over there on my introduction, but yeah, you have been working around animals and life around the Salish Sea for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up in the Salish Sea. I went to the University of Victoria. I worked on a few different marine mammal projects back in the day, but I've been here now at the Shaw Centre for the Salish Sea for almost 12 years. We actually have our 12th birthday this coming Sunday.
Well, yes. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. And I see, and so we do want to encourage folks to come on down if you've never been to this beautiful center. Jenny will pop in a link. I don't know if you can see it. Probably might be hard to see for everybody that's attending, but is that an orca whale skeleton through the glass back there?
It is. It's an adult female orca skeleton from the northern resident.
Oh yeah, I think the reflection is making it.
Yeah, I bet.
So
People
that's
can come out and peek through the windows, get up close,
mm-hmm.
or come inside.
Mm-hmm. So I know you've seen lots of live whales, but should we start with maybe how to identify? I know you've got some things over there. Or where would you like to start?
Oh, well, let's go as close
Okay.
to the water as we can.
Okay, let's do it. Okay.
Yeah, great. So as Liz said, we are going to look for whales today. We might not see any, but it is not completely out of possibilities, because I have several stories of seeing them right here on my work day, after my work day, before my work day. So I'm going to give you a little bit of lay of the land to start with. I heard before we started that there are some people visiting or viewing from farther afield. So if I could start with a geography lesson, I'd really love to do that. Of course, we are here in the Wasanich territory in Sydney, BC, in front of Sydney Channel, also in front of Sydney Island. There's lots of Sydneys. So we are looking east. I hope the screen can pick up amazing, beautiful Mount Baker. We don't always see it, but on a day like today, it's spectacular. So we are looking east, and what's really interesting to know is that Mount Baker is actually the east edge of the Salish Sea. So when we think of the Salish Sea, we're often thinking of just the salty bits in the ocean. But it is important to know and understand it's a watershed. So there is land and rivers and streams that sort of drain into the Salish Sea, which is an inland sea. So the eastern border is the Mount Baker. If we look north, can't see it obviously, but sort of the northern area tip of the Salish Sea is around Campbell River at the top of Strait of Georgia. And then if we look south, we can imagine that the Salish Sea watershed sort of bottoms out south of Seattle, bottom of Puget Sound. And then if we're gonna head west, we go out the Strait of Juan de Fuca and just to the tip of the land where the open Pacific starts. That's the west edge of the Salish Sea. So it's a very big space. It's a very diverse space. But we're in our lovely little town of Sydney here, and we're gonna look for some whales.
Yeah. So when was the last time you saw whales from here, and what kind of whales did you see?
Great question. So March 23rd, how is that for exact day? And I'm gonna say 4:30 p.m. It was actually a really fun experience. It was spring break. It was a busy day at the center. It was a bit stormy, which also makes for a really good rainy day, busy day at the center. And I was kind of doing the end of the day sweep. We were about to close. We still had quite a few visitors. I was just trying to check the lay of the land, how many people were still here. When I got actually right by where that killer whale skeleton is, maybe I'll wait for the plane. It's pretty low.
That is pretty low.
Look at that.
It's a very active area.
So basically, when I got down to the killer whale skeleton area, I sort of peeked out the window and noticed just along this pathway where we're standing, there was lots of small groups of people, all looking out at the water, all looking at the same direction. None of them looked panicked, but they were really focused. So I took a pause and looked the same direction, and sure enough, there were some large fins of killer whales or orcas. So I quickly did my customer service thing and let everybody know who was still in the building that there were whales outside, and encouraged them to come along the window of the aquarium and look and spread out, distance from each other. And then we all kind of looked at each other and thought, well, why don't we just go outside? And so staff included, we kind of all huddled out here in the rain and spread out along here to get even that much closer. And there was three whales, three killer whales, heading south.
Heading south.
They were heading south. We know that one of them was a male, and I brought some handy props outside the center, which gives you a little bit of a great idea what to look for. So size-wise, this is a male killer whale dorsal fin. This is about 6 feet tall. Very, very, very big dorsal fin on the male. And this is what you're going to see what's going to come out of the water.
Wow.
A small amount of the whale that you can see. They're just swimming along, cruising along.
And just how tall are you? Just
I'm about 5'9".
Okay.
So
yeah.
So
wow.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And then the smaller one here is sort of more typical of a female dorsal fin. Now, if it's a younger male, the fin won't be this tall. They sort of get this routed, taller fin at puberty in their teens. So young male killer whale dorsal fin would look a lot like a female. Some experts might be able to tell the difference
right.
between a young male fin and a female fin. But I'm better at identifying them when they're full grown.
Okay. And is it, I've read and heard that are the transients or the big killer whales, do they have a shorter, more squat dorsal like that? Is that
The
true?
bigs or the transient killer whales, actually, a lot of the shape difference between ecotypes of killer whales can be seen actually more in the top of the fin shape.
Okay.
So residents tend to have a more curved, rounded tip to the dorsal fin, and transients or big killer whales have more of a pointy, almost like a shark-like fin. So that's one of the ways that people can see just looking out at a pod of whales or a group of whales that they might be resident or transient. So there are other things that you can look for, sort of behavior, group size. Everything that we've ever seen from this space has been a transient.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what was the reaction of people when they see the whales? I mean, I kind of know the answer to that, but what were people saying and doing?
They were pretty excited.
It's just such a joyful thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the most exciting thing to see a whale.
Yeah, and you know, they were all sort of at the end of the visit of the aquarium. So we were almost ready to close, and so there was a lot of camaraderie and jokes about, you know, thanks for lining up the whales to finish our visit to the aquarium. So there was a lot of jokes about that, but yeah, people were really impressed. And you know, spring break, there were quite a few people who came out to visit local attractions. And maybe hadn't been out here and came from, you know, not too far away, but came from around the area, and yeah, what a treat.
Yeah, what a treat. What a beautiful location. And I realized I forgot a couple of really important things. One, Tina Kelly is also a volunteer at the Royal BC Museum.
Yeah, I miss it.
Very lucky to we don't have any volunteers at the museum right now because of the pandemic, but hopefully that's going to change soon. And also, we were talking about the Orcas Exhibition. Royal BC Museum, Orcas Our Shared Future is on at the museum right now if you can get down. And Tina's been through, and you were commenting on how the size of one of the models in there and how it really makes you realize how large they are.
Yeah, it's impactful. I mean, the whole exhibit is impactful, and I highly recommend it. Give yourself lots of time if you're a sign reader and you like to absorb all the good information. Some of it I know, and I still read it because it's a great exhibit. So yes, I was speaking earlier about how just that concept of size, it's really hard to tell. We look at things in books and in pictures, and even for this reference of the dorsal fin, I mean, it's pretty spectacular, but you still don't really get a sense of how big the animal is. And I've been right beside them in a boat, and I think, oh, they're big, but there's that movement, and it's happening, and you're excited. I stand near a full-size female killer whale skeleton every day, and I get a sense of the size and the length, but there's these incredible models, life-size models at the Orcas exhibit of a male and a female, and so it's the whole animal. So it's, you know, like the whole full body, the blubber, the skin, everything, and just the sheer size is incredible, and the perspective is amazing.
Yeah. Thanks for that description. All right. So when you saw people, there's somebody just surfaced out there, which the camera will not be able to pick up. It's not a whale because no, and I can't zoom in with the zoom, ironically. So,
but it's Orca food.
Is it? Tina, tell us about the Orca
lunch.
Food. Okay, Orca lunch is out there.
Yeah, this is what a transient killer whale or orca might come cruising through to snack on. So those are looking at a harbor seal. Oops, it went down.
Just went under.
Yeah.
But so you notice people staring at the horizon. That was your first cue. What's something else to look for if you want to be watching for whales?
Great idea. So along with the human behavior from land, I look for the human behavior of boats. So I'm kind of always scanning the shore and the horizon, and boat behavior can give you a few keys. So if I see a bunch of boats stop together, I will pause and I will observe for a little while. They may have stopped because they're all gathered around watching some whales. They might be fishing, they might be doing something else, but look around, wait for things to surface. Whales can dive for a good amount of time, so give yourself some time. Sometimes, if you're familiar with what some of our local ecotourism attraction boats look like, they give you a good clue. If you see, you know, one of our bright yellow or red or orange or, you know, big catamaran type ecotourism boats, if they're stopped, that's also a good clue. You might want to pause and take a look out at the sea. They could be looking at kelp or seals or something else, but it could be whales. If you see a boat zooming along really, really quickly and then all of a sudden come to a stop, that's something I would also be intrigued by, because they may have stopped because they caught a porpoise or a whale coming by. So those kinds of clues are really, really great. But honestly, I'm always scanning the surface whenever I'm near the ocean. I was lucky enough to work on several research projects back in my early days around university in different parts of the world with different mammals, humpback whales, manatees. Just out here in the US, San Juan's, I just spent 2 summers looking for porpoises for a master's student. And, every day, 2 summer long, constantly looking from boats or from our shore surveys, constantly scanning the water for fins of anything really. And so it's kind of ingrained in me now. Whenever I'm near, I'm on the ferry, I'm constantly kind of just quickly scanning, looking for things that catch my eye. Be careful of the tricks though. There's some tricks.
And Tina, if I can get you to move over here, and then if you want to turn a little bit, then we can have the background of the sea. But if you could talk towards us a little bit more, just so we keep your voice in there.
Yeah, there
great.
We go. Yes, directional.
Yep.
So some of the tricks of the light can happen depending on the weather and the surface conditions of the water, the wind, and you can sometimes see things that catch your eye. And so what you want to look at when you see something is it debris? Is it a log? And again, pausing, really taking your time to look, because if it never goes down, it's probably just some debris, a log, maybe a rock, maybe a marker on a rock.
There's a little mink. Oh, a mink! I'll try to get closer to the mink. No. I don't know if you can see the little mink. Oh. I'm sorry, I can't zoom in. Oh, there it goes, little mink. So, what I was going to say was the thing about the danger of looking for whales all the time is that you learn about everything else that lives around. So you get to see things like minks and harbor seals and river otters and all kinds of things.
Absolutely.
And the other kinds of whales. Have you seen other whales go past here?
You know what? Back in the day, I think in our early years, we had a gray whale.
Oh wow!
Yeah. But for the most part, we've seen transient killer whales. Sea lions and seals are very popular, common. River otters, the mink. One of our new summer students had lunch with observing the mink recently. She was very excited. There's lots to see. If you just sort of, again, that's the biggest thing, is to pause and take a look.
Right. Just something we all need to be doing these days.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Jenny, are there any questions yet? We usually say questions to the end, but if there's any questions, we can start taking questions.
Yes, there was one question in the chat on Zoom from Deb. And their question was, why are the dorsal fins so different between the different groups of orcas?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And I'm probably going to talk around it a little bit. So here on the coast of BC, there are 3 ecotypes. Right now, I believe worldwide there's 10 different ecotypes. So currently they're all the same species, or considered the same species, but different ecotypes. And they sort of just evolved over time in their different areas. So whales of the world, killer whales of the world is a great Google search. And it might be on the portal Liz mentioned, but it'll bring up a poster and it'll show you all the ecotypes side by side or in 2 columns. And it gives you really good perspective of how slightly different they are. So transients here are bigger. Their maximum size is bigger than residents, for example. There's a really quite a much smaller orca in the Ross Sea. They have slightly different patterns, slightly. Their maximum sizes are very different. The tips of their dorsal fin might be a different shape.
Where's the Ross Sea?
Ross Sea is southern hemisphere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I believe right now there's 4 different types in Antarctica in the southern sea, but they are found worldwide. Killer whales are. So the tip of the fin difference, that's a really good question. I'm not actually sure why the tip of the dorsal fin would be different, but they have sort of evolved in their isolated pockets. And so that's why we know a lot about how different they are in many other ways as well. So in diet preferences, in the languages that they speak, that their social groups, their family groups, they all have differences, all of those different ecotypes.
Right. And I see Jenny did put a link to the learning portal in there. And there is a page in there, the read page, that has all kinds of links. And so I suspect you'll be able to find the full answer to that question. Thank you, Tina. Here comes another plane.
As that plane is coming by, I'll take another opportunity to ask another question from one of the participants on Zoom, from Joanna in Kelowna. How long can orcas breathe underwater?
Oh, that's a good question. I believe that actually also changes between ecotypes, because that would sort of evolve with their food preferences are. So I believe right now the research shows that transients can dive up to 15 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's actually another good tip, because that I wanted to bring up, is because you see a whale once, you might have to wait a little while before you see it again. If they're just sort of cruising along, you might see them keep continually coming up for breath. But you might also have to be patient, because you see them, or one person in your group sees them, and you want everyone else to see it, and so you might have to wait a little while. And along with that, they can change their direction underwater. So transients are a little bit unpredictable, and I want to say scattered, but kind of in their swimming patterns. So, for example, the whales we saw earlier, or I talked about earlier, sorry, that I said we're swimming south. We were people were sort of running down to the next pier and the next pier, and trying to see them. Well, that could happen. You could even get in your car and head further south to another beach, just to not find them again. So, when they go down, just continually scan, because you could put your eyes this way thinking that's where they're going to come up again, and then they popped up over here. So
Neat.
15 minutes is a long time to be down, and they can kind of go all over the place.
Yes. Oh, that's neat. Thank you. Thanks, Tina. Any other questions, Jenny, right now?
Yes, we do have quite a few more questions.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, let's do some questions then.
We have a question that is, are the patterns of orcas all the same or different for everyone?
Ooh, like the coloration, I guess?
The overall pattern?
It could maybe be the pattern, maybe like the saddle patches, all that type of thing.
Yeah, so between different ecotypes, there are generalities between the saddle patches. What's really great about a saddle patch, and actually, I don't know, can we actually come back over?
We could, sure.
I happen to have an extra prop on my dorsal fin.
Yeah.
So I do not know which individual whale this is. My apologies. The picture is quite old, as you can see. But Liz is zooming in on the saddle patch, which is this sort of grayish white pattern behind the dorsal fin. It goes down the left side and the right side of the body, and they are very distinct. They're distinct from each other, so one side's different than the other side, and they're distinct to the whale. So this is where the photo identification of whales comes in, and scientists know these whales individually from this special pattern. And within ecotypes, I believe there are also some sort of generalizations. So we can call a saddle patch an open saddle patch, which means it might have like a little sliver of black, or a little, a swoosh of black inside it. It's not uniformly white or gray. And then we have the closed, which would be kind of more uniformly gray-white, maybe some scratches and things from different things. But some ecotypes tend to have more open saddle patches in their population, and some tend to have more closed. But that's as much as I know in terms of how different the saddle patches are. But I think the coolest thing is more that they're individually marked, these animals. So they're naturally marked. We don't need to tag them necessarily, because they have individual markings.
So neat. So amazing. Thank you, Tina.
We have another question. Is there really a shark eating orca?
Yes. And you will learn all about that in the Orcas exhibit at the RBCM Museum. How's that for a plug? Yes, that is the third type found here along the coast of BC, and we refer to them as offshores. The name sort of gives you that indication that they are found offshore. Not actually discovered too long ago. In my lifetime, they were discovered. So there's still lots to discover about the sea. It's kind of amazing that we haven't, there's large animals still being discovered out there. It's kind of amazing. So yes, they are primarily shark eaters, and I believe their favorite shark of all is the sleeper shark.
Oh, yeah. We had Mark Learin Young with us the last program, and he was saying that their teeth are worn down because of the rough skin of the sharks that they're eating.
Yeah, some people viewing might have experience the build-a-whale skeleton that sort of travels around and goes with some education. And that particular skeleton is from an offshore, and all of the teeth are worn down. And actually, I didn't plan this to have this question, but I actually do have in my pocket a killer whale tooth or a replica.
Of course you do, Tina.
Yeah,
of course
a
you
killer
do.
whale tooth. So you can see conical, pointy, all teeth are the same on a killer whale. They're all pointy and they're all conical in the entire mouth. So unlike our mouths where we have teeth for grinding and chewing and sharp teeth and flat teeth, a killer whale's teeth are all conical and pointy, and that's really because they don't do a lot of chewing at all. All they do is they sort of use their sharp teeth to sort of tear into their food, bite a piece off, swallow it whole, and then continue on. And sometimes it's sharing is involved too between their other mates. So on an offshore, they're also conical when they are born. But over time, eating sharks with their sandpapery, really rough skin, just that over and over again, it's just very abrasive and it wears down the teeth. So they become flat.
Wow, that's amazing. That is so neat. And also amazing and neat that you have that in your pocket. Thank you, Tina. Any other questions?
Yes, it's always good to have extra props. You never know what will come up.
She's an educator extraordinaire.
There's a comment from Anastasia saying we had been sailing in a small bay in Portugal and saw baby orca very close before, which is very cool.
Wow.
We have a question of how long can whales live?
That's also a great question. It's similar to us in some ways, actually. So there is a very famous whale, also predominantly featured in the Orcas exhibit at the museum, named Granny. And estimates are about 100 years old for her when she passed away, slightly over 100. So that's a pretty spectacularly long life. Males live a shorter amount of time. And their maximum, I believe their maximum is 60 years, but on average it's about 29. And then the maximum, obviously for females, Granny was estimated at being 100. But like I think it's 50 to 80 is a range.
Right.
Yeah.
So quite long lived.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, they have all that culture that they're passing on between each other and their groups and their families. And
absolutely. And I'm just looking at a scan.
Yeah. Do a scan. And Jenny, you can read the next question while you scan here.
While you're scanning, maybe there's a question about where exactly you're standing. Do you want to just repeat your location of where you are right now?
Yeah, well, I can give a little specific one. So we're down on the Sydney waterfront. So there's the blue building of the fish market. So it's right at the end of Beacon Street, is it, Tina? That one? That's Beacon Street. So I'm like facing in there. So if you go up this way, you're going to go into the town of Sydney. So the Shaw Centre for the Salish Sea is down here along the waterfront. And if I kept going, there's Victoria Distillers down here, and then there's some restaurants and pubs down there towards the marina. So that's if you know Sydney. That's the really specific. But so then in a wider area, we are close to the Swartzberry Ferry on the Saanich Peninsula in southern Vancouver Island. I hope that helps. North of Victoria. Thank you.
Yes, that was perfect. Thank you, Liz. I'm going to combine a couple of questions together. One is, how many whales do you see per week approximately? And what is the biggest whale you have ever seen?
That is a great question. I wish it was weekly that we saw whales. I will be honest. But I live in Victoria and I work inside the aquarium, so I don't always get to spend lovely afternoons out here like this with Liz. But it's just kind of a handful over the last few years. So I wish it was more common than that.
When you were out on the boats, though, when you were doing that research, was it, would you see one of them every week? Or
a little bit. It depends. In the South Pacific, I spent some time on this, isolated island called Norfolk Island, and we saw humpbacks every day, and that's what we were sort of monitoring the migration of the humpback whales past this former whaling site, which was really interesting. So it varies. In terms of largest, I was lucky enough to see sperm whales off the coast of New Zealand, which was pretty spectacular, but equally as spectacular was the size of the albatross that was beside it. So they were both incredibly larger than I expected.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's incredible. That's so cool.
Very neat.
We have another question from Joanna that is, how much food do orcas eat per day?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it depends. Well, obviously it will depend on the type of killer whale or orca. And with transients, I'm not entirely sure how often they do. I mean, when you think about their food, there might be 1 or 2 or 3 whales together in a group, and they're dining on a seal or a larger whale or a sea lion. So, you know, that food might sustain them a lot longer, and then they don't have to do that as frequently. But the residents do technically need sort of salmon every day. So someone on the call might actually correct me, but I want to say that's about 18 to 25 salmon a day per whale. So that's what's sticking out in my brain right now. Yeah. So for a population of 70 something whales, that's a lot of salmon per day.
Yeah.
And like I said before, with their eating and their teeth, they share. So one might bite off a piece of salmon, and then the other member comes up and bites off a piece. So it's not one whale eats one salmon. It's cumulatively throughout the group they dine on them. But salmon are getting harder to find, unfortunately.
Yes, that is a whole other topic which we do touch on the learning portal and in the exhibit. So we are almost out of time. I think we could take one more question, and then we're gonna have to sign off.
Yes, there was just one clarifying question about how long Tina has worked at the center there, and I believe you said at the beginning 12 years.
Yes.
12, 15 years?
The aquarium, our birthday is on Sunday, and I was lucky enough to start on Canada Day that same year. So my 12th year anniversary is also coming up.
You have been here well. And is there anything planned? I know the COVID restrictions are lifting a little, but can you do anything on Sunday? Is there any celebration planned?
What? That's a good question. We don't have anything planned per se. But we are open. We're open currently Friday to Tuesday. So we are still working on a 5-day per week open hours, closed Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Good way to celebrate. Yeah, we still have to be careful for sure. The pandemic is still going on. Well, let's take a last little scan of that beautiful horizon. I hope you can see Mount Baker off there in the distance. But what a beautiful day. Did we ever luck out with the weather? I'm going to turn my camera around, hopefully not too fast that I've made you seasick there, motion sick, and I'll get Tina in the background, take off my mask, and thank you all very much for joining us today. We are recording this program, and it'll be on YouTube in the next couple of days on our playlist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you, Tina, very much for sharing your whale stories and knowledge with us, and hope to see some of you or all of you on July 15th for that next special summer program. Thank you, and keep watching for whales. Bye, everybody.